Luke Skywalker. One of the most beloved, iconic, and widespread representations of your typical hero's journey. The archetypal hero many people would be the first to name alongside such greats as King Arthur, Hercules, and Superman. But Luke has become a character who exists in a state of flux, one who is currently being pulled apart by both creator and consumer alike, all due to his recent portrayals. Did The Last Jedi reduce him to a cowardly hermit, a complete reversal of the hope and optimism his character historically represented? Or was this a natural and realistic progression for the character, haunted by his previous battles and the weight of a legacy that was thrust upon him? The debate rages on to this day, but the fact that there even is such heated debate is indication enough that whether or not it was a good decision, it divided the fan base. And I'm of the opinion that this automatically disqualifies any choice from ever being considered the right one. But you saw the title of this video, and if, like me, you grew up anywhere either side of the mid-90s, another hero you might mention a little further down your list is Buzz Lightyear. Literally written to represent the generic space hero, he naturally shares a number of attributes with the original trilogy's Luke. Blind devotion to his cause, eventual questioning of his own abilities leading to an even stronger resolve, daddy issues, which, believe me, we're going to address. Even their names are evocative of the same themes. Skywalker, Lightyear. Both conjure up the wonder of possibility, far-flung adventure, and bright imagery of the heavens, fighting on the side of the angels against darkness. I mention Luke not just because we will return to Star Wars many times in this essay, but because I think many would agree that he represents the inception, the true beginning, of Disney's current treatment of beloved characters, of which Buzz Lightyear unfortunately marks the most recent example. You'll also hear me say the word legacy a lot, because when you resurrect franchises whose satisfying conclusions occurred decades ago, you are, by definition, contending with that story's legacy. And that, as we'll see, can get messy. When we examine Lightyear's Pixar paradox. If you haven't seen Lightyear already, major spoilers ahead. Are you ready? Okay. Ignition start. Spoiler launch in T-3, 2, 1. To kick off Lightyear's final act, it is revealed that the film's antagonist, the towering purple tyrant known as is Buzz Lightyear. Like, quite literally, Buzz from the future wearing a robotic suit. After grappling with this for a good few minutes, I spent the entire rest of the film arguing with myself over whether Disney Pixar were doing something really rather clever here, or if it was a contrived and shallow twist for the sake of it. After all, I thought, the best villains are dark reflections of their heroes, representing everything that hero fears exists inside themselves, everything they worry they would become if they made the wrong decisions. Take Darth Vader. He is everything Luke Skywalker would become if he abandoned the mindset that makes him heroic and allowed himself to be coaxed over to the dark side. You know,
like my father before me.
It's genius, and it's the reason this black leather-clad villain from a cheesy space fantasy can stand alongside, and even in countless greatest villains of all time charts, surpass antagonistic juggernauts such as Hans Landa, Hannibal Lecter, and Anton Chigurh. Lightyear seems to be attempting this Vader dynamic, with the character we will hence refer to as Bad Buzz quite literally representing what our Buzz not only could, but has become by seeing his current path of reasoning through to the end. You'd be forgiven for thinking that Lightyear's twist does sound intelligent when examined through this Campbellian lens. That's Joseph Campbell, who wrote The Hero's Journey. But, as with many good ideas, the execution is what lets it down completely. Listen, Zurg was always a walking, talking Vader parody. The I Am Your Father scene in Toy Story 2 was so impactful it invoked the Mandela effect for an entire generation that Luke's famous "No!" occurs immediately after the revelation, when in reality, his initial response is actually,
"It's not true! That's impossible!"
For many years, the parody itself was more memorable and widely quoted than the original. This alone speaks volumes to how effective a villain Zurg was, even if he is a purple carbonite copy of Darth Vader. But Vader himself, even if very well written and popular, is simply a copy of all that makes classical villains effective. George Lucas himself has never hidden the fact that he was heavily influenced by the hero's journey, nor is it a secret that Darth Vader owes a lot of his design and personality to Akira Kurosawa's depiction of the samurai warlord Date Masamune. Date? Darth? But we're getting off track. Because what I'm saying is, it never mattered that Zurg wasn't the original, because neither was Vader. And crucially, both are still compelling villains. But despite this, I'm left with the feeling that Disney was so scared that audiences would guess Lightyear's twist, or that inexperienced Saturday morning cinemagoers would claim that Disney ripped off Vader entirely, when that was by far already the case, that the producer's solution was to just go with the next best thing. Which was not a very good thing at all. Because, most frustratingly of all, the first time a wider Buzz Lightyear story was attempted in the early 2000s Buzz Lightyear of Star Command cartoon, there was already an evil clone of Buzz working alongside Zurg, and this could so easily have been worked into Lightyear. I've formulated a rewrite of sorts that I believe justifies the Campbellian dark reflection twist that I discussed above, without cheapening the character's legacies, or lessening the threat of Lightyear's only true villain, Zurg. So if this kind of thing isn't for you, feel free to skip to the timestamp in the description for some more discussion. But if you'd like to hear this, here's what I propose. Just like in the film, Bad Buzz goes into the future, but here he is captured by Zurg to serve as his general. Zurg is now an alien robot, as he always was, and not just an empty suit that Bad Buzz dubiously finds. Yet, Bad Buzz serves Zurg willingly because he realises he and Zurg share the same goal, simply differing in their methods. Zurg wants to literally destroy Star Command, whereas Bad Buzz wants to return to his timeline, thus eradicating the current one. I know it's confusing. Plenty of kids who have seen this film have no idea what's going on, but just bear with me. Bad Buzz knows this would naturally also destroy his version of Zurg, and this comes into play later, so remember this. In the film, there is this lone Cyclops, one of Zurg's robots, that follows the Zap Patrol. I moved to make this a red Royal Guard style Cyclops, that we do see for a split second near the end of the actual film. This would be an obvious lone wolf that is hunting the protagonists, rather than a half-assed gag that doesn't actually have a payoff. In the film, the broken Cyclops just joins up with a fleet of others to chase the heroes. In my rewrite, this red Cyclops is the one that eventually downs the hero's armadillo and takes our Buzz back to Zurg on the mothership. From here on, the plot is much the same. We still get to have the moment where the suit opens to reveal Bad Buzz, but it's just the red Cyclops, not Zurg himself. He explains himself in much the same way he does in the film, and our Buzz is likewise almost swayed. But the moment that changes our Buzz's opinion is when he is introduced to Bad Buzz's conspirator, the evil Emperor Zurg. This means we could even organically throw in the
So, we meet again, Buzz Lightyear, for the last time,
which was so noticeably absent in the actual film, because it was unusable. If Zurg is Buzz, the line itself makes no sense, and we're robbed of this iconic moment. The film can then build to its climax in the same fashion, with Zurg and Bad Buzz now back in his Cyclops suit, chasing our Buzz. The only difference is that Bad Buzz, Return of the Jedi Vader style, eventually sees the error of his ways. He was always planning to betray Zurg after all, remember? Now he can do so while saving our heroes. So, instead of our Buzz, Bad Buzz is the one who shoots the crystallic fusion cell held by Zurg, sacrificing himself to kill his evil master. With this action, the side of Buzz that would lead him down a path of evil is literally and symbolically destroyed. Because in the actual film, we are denied this payoff. After all of this, if we absolutely must have a damn sequel, we can even keep the same post-credit scene of Zurg's eyes turning back on, signifying his eventual return. Wouldn't this cheapen Bad Buzz's sacrifice? I don't think Disney would care. Not least because they've already shown themselves to be big fans of cheapening villains' change of heart sacrifices anyway, when they resurrected the Emperor to irreversibly damage the sacrifice of Vader himself. Oh, would you look at that? It's all come full circle. My feelings on Disney's writing style aside, I believe my restructure pays proper homage to both the Star Command of old and the primary antagonist's legacy. Bafflingly, Disney already seemed paradoxically keen to acknowledge that legacy, in a half-hearted nod which feels more like a slap in the face when Buzz asks, "Dad?" the first time Bad Buzz steps out of Zurg's suit. They do this even as they actively try to move away from that legacy. I think the rewrite, on the other hand, avoids these pitfalls and more neatly ties up a number of plot threads, all without totally restructuring the film's backbone or losing the best storytelling aspects of the twist, which are never allowed room to breathe beneath the back and forth that Zurg's very inclusion seems to have created in Disney's mind. All of this to say, I think with the precedent of an evil Buzz clone already existing in the franchise's meta, the answer to Lightyear's problems, rather than Zurg being two characters in one, would have been to just include two separate characters. It's hard to deny that there seems to have been a veritable tug of war behind the scenes as to whether Disney were including these established story elements for mere fan service, but would simultaneously be trying to avoid addressing them, or if the film was supposed to be an all-out grounded, glossy retelling of Buzz's previous outings. And once again, the end result is that the rope seems to have come unravelled. Above all, Lightyear attempts to stand on the shoulders of too many giants at once and topples over. I don't just mean their lack of commitment to either honouring or subverting the legacy of Toy Story 2, from which it seems to draw a majority of its inspiration anyway. It's worth mentioning, in case Disney didn't realise, that we've also seen the copy of Buzz who is overcommitted to his standard set of ideals trope in that very film, in the form of Utility Belt Buzz. Besides this, there persists shades of Interstellar, with the time dilation, some obvious parallels to the ambitious but ultimately hollow Ad Astra, with the hidden villain being a deluded, older self who can't be convinced of the righteous path. Also worth mentioning that, even in that film, it was the hero's father. There are even some flashes of Alien with the creature designs and 2001 A Space Odyssey with red beady-eyed robots. But these influences are all too mishmash and shallow to provide anything beyond the thought that Lightyear sure seems to borrow a lot of its strongest elements from some of the genre's best. Once again, I am left to arrive at the same conclusion as my thoughts on Toy Story 4, the Star Wars sequels, and the recent Disney Plus shows The Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi. I'm sure you've noticed by now that many of Lightyear's problems aren't unique to the film itself, but endemic of Disney's current marketing and storytelling strategies. With each new release, Pixar or not, the House of Mouse is rapidly teaching us that by continuing or remaking a story that already has its own legacy, you simply must commit to either entirely honouring its roots or moving away from them entirely if you are to succeed and stand on your own. To quote Sudha Murty, a renowned author and philanthropist, "If you try to please everyone, you will please no one." For one, why would you remake a story if you're just going to do more of the same? And why would you remake something if you're not a fan of its legacy? I think, as I was reluctant to admit back when I saw Toy Story 4, but I'm now far more ready to accept with Lightyear, having been bombarded with Disney's assassination after assassination of my childhood heroes, that the answer is simple. It just didn't need to be, and therefore fundamentally shouldn't have been, remade in the first place. Thank you so much for listening to my first video essay. What did you think of Lightyear? Did the Zurg twist ruin the film? What did you think of my rewrite? Would you have done anything differently? And did I create any plot holes that I've missed? If you did like what you've just seen and heard, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to keep discussing this. And if you like this format, I would gladly do more. Let's just say I have plenty of thoughts on a certain best of the best fighter pilot.